everyone. Thanks again for tuning in to Sin's Workshop. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, today we are going to be talking about Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Fourth Wing kind of took the whole book world by storm. I don't think we've seen such hype about a book really since, Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, I mean, yeah, there's hype for, Court of Thorns and Roses and Sarah J. Maas and Jennifer L. Armentrout, and Colleen Hoover. However, this is the book that, it's bringing back Midnight Book Party releases. I mean, it's really getting a lot of people. I work in a bookstore, so it's really getting a lot of people back into reading. It's really highlighting, just how awesome fantasy books are. And I'm personally really happy about that. Everyone says, oh, it's a romantasy. There is a slow burn romance, but if you actually read fantasy books, there's a lot of slow burn romances and a whole bunch of them. It's not like romance is foreign to high fantasy. I think people just don't associate, when you think of, even Dune, that's science fiction. And that has a romance between Chani and Paul Atreides. It's not a romance book. It's really like this hardcore, awesome fantasy with dragons. And for anyone who loves dragons, this is a must-read. These dragons are amazing. And there are different types of colors and the different type of breeds, and they do talk. And, it's just a phenomenal world building. I will say initially it does run a little slow, only because when Violet is crossing the parapet, she's talking to herself and she's recounting a lot of history in order to ground herself in the moment so that she doesn't, fall to her death. And it did drag a little bit, but I will say it didn't lessen the tension of this moment. She's doing this to ground herself. It also gives you some backstory into the world history. It gives you some world building, but it also adds to her quirkiness. This is a girl who suffers from a chronic illness, and no one really believes she's going to survive, because going through the Flyers quadrant to become a dragon rider, it's deadly. You can have 200 applicants, 200 students, and only 150, 75 of them will survive the college. It is deadly. So she was going to go into the scribe unit until her mother, the great dragon rider general, decided, nope, you're going to go here. You're going to do this now. So she had very limited time to prepare. So everyone's convinced she's dead. So in order to ground herself, she's taking her scribe, everything she learned as a scribe, to really drive her forward. And I like that. It did slow down, that pacing, but it didn't lessen the tension. And it gave you a little insight into how Violet's mind works and just the severity of what it means to go through this college, especially because she has a target on her back. She has to sleep with pretty much a dragon corset. It's a corset made from dragon scales. She has to sleep with that on because there is a target on her back. And then you have Xaden, her slow burn romance. And then you have Dane, her childhood friend. I like the juxtaposition of these two characters. I think they highlight two different sides of Violet as well. And this is where your kind of romance comes into play here. But again, the central focus of the story is not romance. It's just a subplot in the overarching story. Dane, childhood friend, who she's always had a crush on. I initially liked him, but my issue with him is he didn't believe in Violet enough. And I think that's part of why he just frustrated the heck out of me. I mean, he was just really obnoxious, somewhat annoying. He's just like, I'll sneak you out, I'll sneak you out, I'll sneak you to the scribe quadrant, I'll sneak you. It's just like, then you have Xaden, right? And he's like, stop treating her like she's a porcelain doll and she's about to break. Push her, encourage her, just fucking believe in her. And I think Xaden grew, like, he is rough around the edges with her, but he's doing it because coddling her is certainly not going to help her survive. So he has to build her up in order for her to find that strength that she knows she has inside her to become the flyer she's supposed to be, to become the dragon rider she's supposed to be the warrior she's meant to be. And then you have someone else who's constantly coddling her. It's just like, stop coddling me. And she says that to him. It's like, just stop it. It's just like, just push me. So I really do like it. I really do. This is one of my favorite books that I did read this book. Read this year, I should say. It has really good world building. I love the dragon element. I mean, I love dragons. I have a few dragon tattoos and I have more planned. I love dragons. It is my thing. As someone who grew up reading Dragonlance, courtesy of my mom, literally my favorite Harry Potter book is Goblet of Fire because of the Hungarian Horntail, which is not good enough time. But I love dragons. I will read anything and anything that has to do with dragons. So I really did. My expectations for this book were very, very high. And even my friend Gina, who she just reads romance, she's just like, romance this, romance that. We balance each other out quite well. The fact that she loves romance so much, she's like, Cynthia, you have to read this book. And I was going to. She's like, no, read it now. And I'm just like, okay, fine. Like, Jesus, it's on my pile. Like, I'm going to get to it. So she pushed me to read it earlier than I had initially planned. But it really is worth the hype. You have a main character who suffers from a chronic illness. You have dragons. You have very good tension and jaw-dropping plot twist at the end. And I'm so glad that this book is what's giving fantasy the recognition it deserves. I'm so glad it's highlighting how awesome dragons in fantasy are as well. You know, it's just bringing to life everything I love and making everything I love popular again. And I'm just like, I'm very happy for that. So that's another part of why I love this book so much, because it is well written. I love the pacing. Your main character, she is kind of awesome, just how she uses everything to her advantage, because she has to. She has to think outside the box in order to survive. That romance in there as well, it is a slow burn romance. It does get a little steamy at times, but it doesn't take away from the story. That's usually my issue with romance, is sometimes it takes away from the story. No, it needs to add to the story, and I do think it added to the story. And of course, Tarn and Indara and the dragons, they are amazing. They're amazing. So yes, 5 out of 5 stars for this book. Go get a copy of Fourth Wing if you haven't read it already. Please just read it and then check to see if your local bookstore is going to be doing a midnight release for Iron Flame, because I highly recommend you get that book, especially if you want sprayed edges, because get the book while it's in store. Otherwise, if you pre-ordered it, you are not going to get it until 2 weeks, just because of publishing demand, and that includes Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, bookshop.org. You're going to wait 2 weeks to get this book. So if you want the book, go to your local bookstore, see if they're going to have a midnight release, and if they are not, just stand in line before they open and then barge through those doors and be like, I need a copy of Iron Flame, because trust me, you are going to want to read this book. It has everything, and I loved it. I will include links in the description below on where you can purchase the book if you so desire. And on that note, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like the podcast, subscribe to it, and share with all your book-loving friends. Love you all. As always, happy reading.